Matthew 5:22 is a powerful verse on anger. Jesus says, "You've heard that it was said, 'Do not murder.'" But then he brings it back and says, "Well, listen, I tell you, if anyone is angry with their brother or calls their brother a fool, is in danger of hell." Jesus would always get back to the essence. He would get back to that thing. If it's on the same spectrum of sin, no matter how far out it is, murder and that judgment call on a man, on another man, to say you're a fool, Jesus would link it and say, it's all one. It's all one. Consequences here in this life might not be the same, but spiritually, before the King of Kings, the Judge of Judges, it's one. He follows it with the same exhortation on adultery. A man being unfaithful to his wife. But then Jesus says, but if anyone looks lustfully at a woman, he has committed adultery in his heart. And Jesus levels the playing field here again. Well, what's going on here? Here's what's interesting. Prior to the verse on anger, Matthew 5:22, prior to that verse, and I want to hone in on one other little aspect about that, Jesus first sets the stage and he says, I tell you, not one letter of the law will be removed. He said, you need to revere and follow the laws of God. He said, I've come not to do away with the law. Now it's interesting because he's about to preach on some things, anger, divorce, adultery, all these things that we could misinterpret as God removing the essence and the parameters of the law. He's not really doing that. What he's doing through what he's teaching and who Jesus is showing us what the very fulfillment of the law looks like. And it actually looks like grace. But here we have Jesus telling us, okay, I'm not doing away with the law. I'm in fact the fulfillment of the law, which is almost as mind-blowing to our perception as if somebody disregarded the law. Jesus fulfilling the law almost looks like God discarding the law. Think of Jesus in John 8 to the woman caught in adultery. He did not condemn her. He acted out of something much higher and deeper that fulfilled the law, but in a sense did not keep the law. But Jesus says, don't misunderstand this grace for a kind of license to not regard the law. He said, you're going to miss the point. So Jesus sets the stage here, and then he teaches on anger. And he's like, murder, calling someone a fool. It's all bound up in one. Now this is revolutionary stuff. He said, in fact, don't do away with the law. Your righteousness must surpass that of the Pharisees. Now they were the legalists of the day. They were the ones teaching the law in every detail and mixing it all up with tradition. And Jesus said of them later, you are putting the tradition before the law of God. But they were tenacious about the law. Now Jesus comes in and very shrewdly, he says, not only can you not disregard what they say, your righteousness must exceed that of the Pharisees. Now this is fascinating. Some Pharisees probably were caught or had a little rug pulled out from under them here because they were always following Jesus and on the parameter of his teaching, trying to catch him out. And Jesus says, don't disregard what they say. And they were probably thinking, yes, of course, we're very important. And then Jesus says, in fact, your righteousness must exceed their righteousness. Now, that's interesting. I wonder how, the looks they were giving each other, like, are we not righteous enough? I mean, he's telling these people they must exceed ours. Then Jesus goes into this teaching, levels the playing field about murder, anger, adultery, lust. How can our righteousness exceed that of the Pharisees when you're showing us that we're not even keeping up with the details of the law? And this is where the trap door opens to the message of Christ fulfilling the law. It's where we see that we need to be saved. We need to be saved. That's where we're going to access the righteousness that exceeds that of the Pharisees and completes and fulfills the law. It comes through Christ. Galatians 2:20 Paul says, I've been crucified with Christ, I no longer live. But 21, Paul says, if righteousness could have come through the law, Christ died for nothing. Jesus reached us as the perfect one. He was the one who corrected the guy, saying, good teacher. Jesus said, no one is good but the Father. But then here in Matthew 5, he's saying, your righteousness must exceed that of all the Pharisees in your midst. How? Through faith in Jesus Christ. That is the door to righteousness. Not our good works. Ephesians 2, 8 to 10. Not by works can we attain to righteousness or be saved. Now here's one other little addendum on anger. Legalism. Legalism, honestly, almost like a confession, but legalism is this, basically it's keeping to this law but neglecting a higher law, or it's being all about this written law but neglecting the spirit of the written law, not keeping in step with the spirit but keeping in step with the letter. Murder gets acquitted in our courts by legalism, as it were. So legalism, but I even find in myself sometimes, I can come down on my kids maybe for cursing, like using a curse word. But then me, without using a curse word, can curse someone else I love through a very unkind, uncharitable, or judgmental statement. Okay? And Jesus is coming along going, well, Pete, there's cursing, but then if anybody comes down on another with a down-putting word, he is guilty of the exact same thing, kind of like murder and anger, cursing and cursing. And, I think it's just these teachings of Jesus in Matthew 5 can be very liberating, even as we get caught up in rules and patting ourselves on the back for laws we keep and how we feel about ourselves. And Jesus can recalibrate us here and go, no, hold on. Make sure that you are feeling about yourself because of my righteousness, not because you haven't murdered anybody. Because even today, you have treated people as though you are calling them a fool, or you are putting them as less than yourself. You have treated people as lesser than yourself. And that is actually on the spectrum of killing one another. It is man making himself God over another man, morally, practically. Our righteousness, my friends, call on Christ, and he will flood you and fill you with true righteousness, and it can't be taken from you because it doesn't derive from you. And here we have a message that can free our souls, and it can reach other people. God bless you.